Overtime heroics in Vegas, the Sabres pull even, and a coaching change in Toronto. Welcome to NHL Wraparound Stanley Cupdate. It is Wednesday, May 13th, 2026. Vic Morren, Neil Smith, and we'll get into the coaching change in Toronto a little bit more in depth towards the end of the show. But quickly, Neil, any surprise there with Craig Berube out?
Yeah, I'm actually surprised that John Chayka or Matt Sundin or Keith Pelly knew what the heck to do. So they did something, but I don't know who told them to do that. They certainly all wouldn't know to do it.
We'll do a little bit deeper dive into this towards the end of our program, but we're going to start with the early game with the Buffalo Sabres pulling even with the Montreal Canadiens with a 3-2 win. Similar to what Jared Bednar did prior to Game 4 in the Colorado-Minnesota series, Lindy Ruff making several changes, most notable, PekkaLuukkonen in goal, replacing Alex Lyon, Konsta Helenius in it forward for Sam Carrick, and Luke Schenn on the back line in for Logan Stanley, although he didn't play very much in this game. But I think good read here by Ruff, recognizing that his team needed a little bit of a shakeup because we have said the last 7 periods, they have done a lot of chasing of the Montreal Canadiens.
Yeah, it all started in the third period of the first game. Montreal dominated that. I think the shots were 11-1 or something thereabouts. It continued for Game 2 in Buffalo, and then Game 3 in Montreal. The first game in Montreal, I thought, was really domination by the Canadiens. So Ruff had to do something to turn the tide.
Luukkonen stopped Cole Caulfield in the first minute, but I thought overall the Sabres had a much stronger start in this game, and it was Mattias Samuelsson from Josh Norris opening the scoring about 6.5 minutes in.
Yeah, they did have a stronger start than the Canadiens. They came out, they looked good, they seemed organized, they seemed disciplined, and really looked good for them when Samuelsson opened the scoring.
So a minute and a half after that, we all got a front row seat to what was going to become a series of events that really was bizarro world. Jack Quinn took a backhand off a scramble in front. The puck was deemed over the goal line after a 9-minute review. And I thought all along that you could see the puck in the webbing. The webbing was over the goal line, and this shouldn't have taken that long. But then after that goal was allowed, the Canadiens challenged for goalie interference because Helenius came through the crease, and Canadiens' claim was that Jakub Dobeš was bumped. Another review of about 4 minutes, and the goal was eventually waved off.
We didn't have a goal because they stopped play to review whether or not the puck had gone over the line, much to the surprise of everybody at the Bell Center. They deemed that the puck did go over the line in the webbing of the glove. Marty St. Louis calls for a challenge. They go back. They wave it off. There's no goal. So we're back to where we started before we even knew that Quinn's shot had gone over the line.
But even at this point, shot attempts are 15-3 for the Sabres, but then middle of the period, after Mike Matheson hit a crossbar, the Sabres failed to clear, and defenseman Samuelsson, who had scored the first goal of the game, gets a little bit high in the defensive zone. Jake Evans misses from in close, but retrieves his own rebound, and he sets up Alex Newhook for his 6th goal of the playoffs.
How about Newhook? He has just been terrific, an opportunist, the right place at the right time. He just has that feel right now going for him. And yeah, you're right. Samuelsson got up too high. He hadn't left the zone yet, but he was too high in the zone to be able to recover.
On a Montreal power play, Luukkonen actually pulled the puck off the goal line with the net off, and had this gone in, this would have gone to review also.
And this probably would have counted. As I think Dave Jackson said on the broadcast, it's a good thing that Luukkonen did get the puck before it crossed that goal line, because it might have counted depending upon who knocked the net off.
You know, Dave had an Emmy Award-winning performance in the first period.
Oh, he did. And then, of course, we'll get to it later, but if you keep watching, all of a sudden Dave Jackson shows up in Anaheim.
Yeah, the miracle of television. Late in the period, an offensive zone penalty by Tage Thompson, kind of a soft call on a cross-check against Caden Gooley. And it's Cole Caulfield converting from Juraj Slafkovsky in close with 13 seconds left in the period. It's 2-1 Canadians, and you got to think, boy, they're going to take over from here.
Well, you thought that they might, but, it still Buffalo had the edge, I thought. But that was a great goal by Caulfield, the opportunist. What was really good about it was he got it and within a millisecond had stick held 2 or 3 times back and forth, making Luukkonen lift his leg up to position himself. And as soon as his leg came up, Caulfield slid it under and into the net. 13 seconds to go. Really good time for Montreal to score and really bad to go into the locker room for Buffalo, thinking you had the better of the play, but you're down 2-1.
Luukkonen had to stop Caulfield twice early in the second. That prevented a 2-goal lead. And then Dobish had to make saves off Helenius and Zucker. Then kind of an unconventional power play goal for the Sabres that was a result of a double minor against Alexander Carrier for high sticking Rasmus Dahlin. Basically, a shoot-in by Tage Thompson, and it hit a little nick on the boards and boomeranged past Dobish to tie the game.
Well, the thing is, in most of these buildings is that they do the best they can to make sure that the Zamboni gate is shut and is level. But sometimes there is a little bit of an overlap like you get in your house on a door. And when that puck got shot in by Tage Thompson, he meant it as a wraparound, but it hit that overlap of the Zamboni door, came straight out before anybody knew it, hit Dobish in the leg and went in behind him. You might not see a goal like that all season long. And so suddenly in a playoff game, in a very important goal, and that really quieted the Bell Center. You could hear a pin drop.
Kind of sucks when the carpentry in your own building comes back to bite you.
Yeah, but that happens. That happens in a lot of places. I've seen that happen many times. Not in NHL buildings, not in 2026, but I've seen it happen before. Usually it's off a stanchion on the glass, right?
Yeah.
Goes up onto the glass, hits one of those metal stanchions, comes flying back out. You can't blame Dobish for this, and you can't give credit to Thompson. It's just a complete fluke.
But Thompson needed this goal pretty badly because for him, this was only his 4th goal of the playoffs. Not that that's a bad total, but he's been frustrated for large stretches of time that we have seen during the course of the first 2 series. But as this period continued to go on, Montreal started to take the play away, and a lot of it was self-inflicted wounds by the Sabres, committing penalty after penalty. And by the end of the second period, they were shorthanded 6-7 times by the time a double minor carried over into the final frame. Ray Ferraro made a great point. All of these penalties, all 7 of them, were preventable. They weren't good penalties to take.
No, they weren't. And you got to know that Lindy Ruff is in the locker room saying, guys, you got to be more careful than you're being with your sticks going up and clipping guys and all the different things that's going on in the undisciplined play. Come on, tighten it up this period. And he had to be going out of his mind with this many penalties going on.
But the dummy stick hit Montreal in the third period because Jake Evans with an offensive zone penalty, and on the ensuing power play, it's Doan to Benson. He goes skate to stick at 4:41 to put the Sabres ahead. And accompanied by one of the all-time stupid graphics, he's only the 3rd player in NHL history to score a postseason goal on his 21st birthday.
Which is really important to know when you're watching a game, because never mind the shots, attempts, or saves or anything else, know that a guy scored on his 21st birthday and in a playoff game is only the 3rd guy to do it, including Gordie Howe, who also did. See how much attention I paid to that graphic?
You did. Maybe it
Anyway,
worked.
Give Benson credit. Don't put this across. It bounced off of Benson's stick. He quickly tapped it with his skate back to his stick, went forehand, backhanded it over top of the pad of Dobish and we're 3-2.
Dobish had to make a spectacular stop on Helenius, and then Helenius again, who was very strong in his playoff debut, hit a post on a similar play in the final 3 minutes. But overall, the attempts in the third period, Canadians 33-8, 75-44 for the game. Sabres really sold out in this one, blocked 31 shots. But I thought a part of this game that kind of got lost in this was, despite the territorial edge that the Canadians continued to take as this game went on, a lot of errant passes, a lot of mishandled pucks. So even though they had zone time, they had possession time, the execution on this night was not quite as crisp as we had seen in games 2 and 3.
Oh, I didn't think it was even close to game 3, but they'll make adjustments again, heading to Western New York and Buffalo, and they'll come out with a different attack. Buffalo's got to up their game again. They can't be satisfied with their game in game 4.
The 5th game will be played on Thursday, 7 o'clock Eastern on TNT. Vegas takes a 3-2 lead over the Anaheim Ducks with an overtime win in Game 5 on Tuesday. Mark Stone remaining out, captain for the Golden Knights. Both teams had great chances early. First for the Ducks, it was Gauthier, Poehling, and McTavish. And then at the other end of the ice, Gauthier actually pulled the puck out of the crease on an attempt by Tomas Hertl.
A great defensive play by Gauthier. He pulled it right out of the net, not in the net, obviously, but just before it was going to go in. A tremendous play for Gauthier.
At the 9-minute mark, cue Dave Jackson again. Brayden McNabb, thunderous hit on Ryan Poehling, and this was pretty scary because Poehling tried to get up, was really wobbly, and it ended up as a major penalty in a game misconduct, which forced the Golden Knights to play the rest of this game with 5 defensemen.
Yeah, and you know what, Vic? I think that this should have been a 5-minute penalty and a game misconduct, only because Poehling didn't have the puck. He was completely defenseless. I don't think that McNabb tried to hit him in the head. I just thought he tried to really lay him out, and he did. Unfortunately, though, his head snapped back. You could see he was out cold. He couldn't get up. They had to literally, when you say carry a guy off, they literally had to carry him off. He had his arms over 2 of the players' shoulders, and then when he got off the ice, 2 of the attendants took him back into the locker room. He never came back again. Scary for Poehling, and a tough penalty for John Tortorella's Anaheim Ducks, but I think probably deserving.
About 7.5 minutes left in the first period. On that power play, Beckett Seneca opened the scoring on a rebound of a Cutter Gauthier shot. But then Vegas got a power play. That was set up by the speed of Mitch Marner drawing a slash. And it's Pavel Dorofeyev, what I thought, stripping Chris Kreider of the puck with 3:47 left in the first and putting a shot home past Dostal. Even though Kreider never touched the puck, there were still 2 assists that were given out on the play. And I'm like, what are we giving out here? Christmas cookies?
Kreider didn't touch the puck? Is that what you're saying?
It didn't appear. Yeah, it didn't appear. It looked like he was about to put his stick down on it, but still the official scorer saw that it was worthy of giving both Tomas Hertl and Jack Eichel assists on this play. I don't know. Maybe it was so we could hear the Carnival Barker PA announcer, Bruce Cusick, in Vegas just scream out more names.
Maybe that's why. Certainly, Dorofeyev deserved to get an unassisted goal on that. From my view, I got to go back and watch it again, but I thought it should have been unassisted.
Major penalty aside, thought Vegas was more assertive in the first, but that really flipped in the second period. Hart had to make several big saves, and the shot totals were 17-6 for Anaheim in this period. I thought Vegas was more one and done. I thought there was more pressure that was put on by Anaheim throughout that middle period. It was really on Vegas's defense to remain disciplined, support Hart, get those pucks out, but a really good period for the Ducks in the second.
Certainly was. They threw a lot of things at Carter Hart and tried to break through and did everything they could. I'm sure that John Tortorella had a talk with his team between periods and said, look, guys, we have to tighten up and we have to play a little bit differently here. They were down to 5 defensemen, as you said, and they did it. They did tighten up.
Right at the end of the second period, Dostal had to stop William Karlsson. Then early in the third, Brandon Saad missed the net about a minute and a half in, wide open shot from the middle of the ice. But then 4:48, Tomas Hertl, who hadn't scored in like 30 games, scored in the last game, in game number 3, wins a faceoff, and converts a rebound of a Rasmus Andersson shot to put Golden Knights ahead 2-1. What wasn't mentioned on the telecast was that Saad actually tipped this puck down to create that rebound.
Hertl was ecstatic when he scored this goal. From what I understand, Tomas Hertl is a very popular guy on the Vegas Golden Knights, great team guy, and you could see that his teammates were thrilled that he finally got off the schneid.
Teams exchanged good chances as we got into the second half of the third period. Saad and Shea Theodore just missed with 7.5 left. And then on the ensuing rush down the ice, it was Beckett Seneca hitting a post. As time wound down, the Ducks finally started to get some sustained zone pressure. And finally, it's Gauthier to Olin Zellweger for the tying goal with 3:05 left in regulation.
And you would have thought that would have put a dagger into the Vegas Golden Knights because, you know, you look like you're going to win. You're sort of waiting for the other team to pull a goaltender. And now all of a sudden you're back to square again and it's anybody's ball game.
But in the overtime, Vegas clearly the better team. Obviously didn't want to go back to Anaheim down 3-2. They get all 5 shots. And on a misclearing attempt, which you'll explain in a second, it's Jack Eichel with a shot, a little bit of a carom, and it's Dorofeev with his second of the game, banging home the OT winner at 4:10.
Yeah, now this goal, you need to see it, but I'll try to explain it. Troy Terry gets the puck on the sideboards, tries to tip it over to Leo Carlsson. Jack Eichel with his great stick somehow comes up with the puck from those two, goes down deep into the right wing corner and tries to make a pass to Dorofeev, which I think hit Kreider in front of the net, bounced off Dostal, and while it was still in midair, Dorofeev bats it into the net. From outside the crease, nobody around Dostal, no way there's goaltender interference. It wasn't a rush play, could not be offside, so you definitely knew that the Golden Knights had won the game.
I thought the Vegas urgency level was clearly evident here.
Yeah, I mean, they came out and decided to put on a real push, and they did. And the Ducks couldn't recover from it because they scored too quickly on them. They just hemmed them in, and the play by Eichel was phenomenal. He's so good with his stick. He's so good to find pucks, and he was able to do it this time. They got a little bit of a fortuitous bounce in front of the net, but still great play by Dorofeev to bat it in past Dostal.
Eichel had 10 attempts on the net, clearly a very visible player for Vegas, and they take a 3-2 lead. Back to Anaheim on Thursday night, 9:30 on TNT. One game on the Wednesday schedule, Minnesota at Colorado, game number 5, 8 o'clock. Coverage switches over to TNT. Both Joel Eriksson Ek and Jonas Brodin remain out for Minnesota, and I think it's just going to be too difficult for Minnesota to be able to sustain without these two players, because you're talking about your number one center and one of your top defensive players against a team that just keeps coming at you.
They just keep coming in waves, and I'm not saying that Colorado definitely wins this game, but boy, if Minnesota can beat them in there in Colorado, it's certainly a badge of honor, because without Eriksson Ek, without Brodin, worn down, I think a number of their guys, including Zuccarello, are hurt right now, but they still keep playing. It's really tilted in Colorado's favor at this point.
But you're taking Minnesota, right?
I didn't say that. No, I didn't say that. Are we picking right now? Because I'm going to surprise you.
No, you're not surprising anybody. We were 1-1 last night. We both had Montreal. We both had Vegas. And I'm sure we're both taking Colorado to finish the series.
Oh, don't be so sure. You know, when I look at Minnesota, I look at the desperation they're going to play with. I look at John Hines. I look at the goaltending they have. I look at Quinn Hughes. I look at Faber. I'm taking Colorado.
Oh, boy. Suspense is not one of your great virtues, I'll tell you that. All right. So earlier in the show, we talked about Craig Berube out as head coach of the Toronto Maple Leafs, lasted 2 seasons there. And obviously now, even though we had heard on Tuesday that the Edmonton Oilers had asked to speak with Bruce Cassidy, who still has another year under contract with the Golden Knights and is working for TNT as a studio analyst right now, does his name become at the top of the Toronto list?
Yeah, I mean, who knows? The way Toronto's doing things, honestly, Vic, I wouldn't know. They might pick Jack the Beanstalk. I have no idea what they'll do there. Cassidy is certainly going to be back coaching in the league next year. Where it'll be, I don't know. And who Toronto will pick, who knows? I mean, you just don't know.
Do you think that this firing has to do in any way, shape, or form with Edmonton overtly saying that they wanted to talk to Cassidy?
It should, if in fact the people that run Toronto Maple Leafs are smart enough to listen to that and they know who Bruce Cassidy is, they might actually, think, well, we better get going here and make a decision. So, yeah, maybe they thought, you know what, he's out there. We don't want somebody else to get him. Much in the same way that the Islanders jumped on Pete DeBoer with 4 games to go in the season. Who knows? I don't know if Cassidy would even want to walk into that, that dumpster fire that they call the Toronto Maple Leafs right now.
Boy, you really got the Ginsu out today.
Well, they deserve it.
All right. Let's hit some other news. Remember Starkist Tuna?
Yes, I do.
All right. Well, tell him Charlie sent you because we have a couple of news items regarding Charlie's. First, an extension. Charlie Coyle extends with the Columbus Blue Jackets 6 years, $6 million per. He's 34 years old, which is something that you really wanted to point out right away to me.
Exactly. But let me explain to you, to the listeners, exactly what happens in these situations. Now, you might think, why would Don Waddell and the Columbus Blue Jackets think that Charlie Coyle can play at 39 and 40 years of age in those last 2 years of a 6-year deal? Well, they probably don't. But probably what Charlie wanted and his agent wanted was in and around $36 million. And the Blue Jackets didn't want to pay him $36 million over 4 years. So they said, well, we'll give it to you over 6 years so that in those last 2 years, who knows what's going to happen? You could be on long-term injured reserve because you've got a hangnail on your finger. So that's how they do things nowadays. So when you see these long contracts to older guys like Marchand and others, the thinking really isn't that they're going to play right up until the end of the contract.
And, of course, with the salary cap continuing to go up, you really don't have to worry about going over.
No, you don't. Although the thing I keep thinking about, Vic, and I don't want to go too far into this because we want to do the show, but I don't know how the Columbus Blue Jackets get the revenue to pay this kind of a contract or pay numbers commensurate with the ceiling of the salary cap. You can say, well, the cap's going up. The cap's going up. Yeah, but we've got to make enough money to be able to pay it. It's still a budgetary item. You can't just say, well, they've got $104 million to spend. Well, they don't have that to spend in Ottawa. I'll tell you that, because they don't bring that much in. So that's another interesting sidebar to the whole game and to the whole process of the NHL.
The other Charlie item that we have is a suspension to Bruins defenseman Charlie McAvoy who will miss the first 6 games of 26-27 for his slash on Zach Benson in Game 6 of that opening round. Benson scores the game-winning goal on Tuesday, and now McAvoy suspended. By the way, did I tell you that he's only the 3rd player in NHL history to score a postseason goal on his 21st birthday?
No, wasn't it Gordie Howe did that as well?
And Mike Rathje.
Oh, wow. I mean, never mind who won the game and where the series is going. That's the biggest item right there.
Then I guess I should skip right past the GM of the Year nominees, because all 3 have appeared on NHL Wraparound. It's Bill Guerin of Minnesota, Chris McFarland, the Colorado Avalanche, and Pat Verbeek of the Anaheim Ducks. All 3 very worthy. I don't think I can actually make a pick here in good conscience because all 3 have appeared on our show.
I can make a pick because I think all 3 are worthy. All 3 are good, and all 3 are not Jim Nill, who's won it the last 3 years in a row. But I'd be stunned if Pat Verbeek doesn't win this. The way the Anaheim Ducks have gone from, basically sitting in their nest to out front there now and flapping their wings.
Is that the only reason you're picking him, is so you could bring your bad uncle lines in there?
You know what Pat Verbeek said when he took the team out for dinner?
No, but I'm sure you're going to share this with everybody.
Just put it on my bill. Who do you have winning it?
You know what? I think I have to agree with you. I think all 3 of them, as we said, very worthy. Guerin had to navigate through the buyouts of Ryan Suter and Zach Parise and still kept the team competitive. McFarland has built the best team in the NHL thus far this season. And the job that Verbeek has done through free agent signings, trades, coaching, hiring, this is going to be a team that is going to be very competitive for a long time. But I do think when you take the composite in here, Verbeek has probably taken this team the furthest in terms of what he has built. And I happen to agree with you on that. So put that on my bill.
Well, and, the voters like these rags to riches stories. The Chris McFarland stories of what a great moves they made to get Neckish into the lineup. Jack Drury is doing a great job for them that they got from Carolina, and Neckish. They came out of that even stronger. Bill Guerin, the way he orchestrated that trade for Quinn Hughes and got even stronger. And along with those buyouts, as you said, but that was the year before. Bill didn't spend a lot of money in the offseason, much to everybody's shock, right? He did hire John Hines. He did other things that were good. I would hope that the voters would overlook the Olympics because that's not part of this. So while I think Bill Guerin is really worthy, so is Chris McFarland. As I said, people like the rags to riches stories, the stories of Lindy Ruff in Buffalo, the stories of when you go from out of the playoffs to almost a contender in 1 year. The problem with it is on the coaching side is that when you vote for somebody like that, sometimes, and we talk about this all the time, sometimes teams are having career years. Their players are having career years. And you give the coach all that credit, give him the Jack Adams Award. The next year when the players all come back down to earth, looks like he's doing a crappy job, he gets fired in the 3rd year. That's happened many times in this league. But anyway, I regress. GM of the Year nominee, I think the winner will be little number 16, the Ball of Hate, that played for the Hartford Whalers, the New York Rangers, and the Dallas Stars, and the Detroit Red Wings.
And the New Jersey Devils.
Well, in the very, very beginning, yes. Yeah, in the very beginning. And the man who lost his thumb in a farming accident.
I first saw Verbeek as a young New Jersey Devil when I was wearing a cowboy hat.
You wearing a cowboy hat?
It's a good time to jump off and end this show.
Yeah, it is.
That? Huh? You don't like that visual, do you?
urban cowboy.
Yeah, something like that. Reach us individually at Neil at NHLWraparound.com or myself, Vic, at NHLWraparound.com. We're on all podcast platforms, so leave a review. Or if you're tuning in via YouTube, please subscribe. We're at 860 subscribers as of this morning. You can also find us on X, Instagram, TikTok, at RayD8.tv and Buzzard.com. That's BZZR.com. Our website is NHLWraparound.com. And our spring cleanings have continued on Quick Takes. We dropped the Edmonton Oilers on Monday, Boston on Tuesday, of course, before we learned of the Charlie McAvoy suspension. The Utah Mammoth comes up on Thursday, and Tampa Bay on either Friday or Saturday. Teams eliminated in round 2. We'll cover those teams next week. So on behalf of Neil, I'm Vic. Enjoy the game on Wednesday evening, and we'll talk to you on Thursday.